Let's first go over our art supplies for today. You will have a pencil sharpener, not a pencil but an ebony pencil, which is a little bit darker and easier to blend, and you will also have a blending stump. Now when you're sharpening your ebony pencil, make sure you're using the smaller hole and gently sharpening the ebony pencil. Here's a little tip. Try not to sharpen it super fine and pointy because sometimes it just keeps on breaking when we're drawing. Make sure you do not sharpen the blending stumps. We're going to be creating our own value chart today. When you receive your paper, make sure you write your name at the top of the paper. You're going to try your best to recreate the value scale that you see on the left over on the right with your ebony pencil and your blending stump. Leaving the first box white, I'm starting with the second box in my value scale. I'm using the ebony pencil very, very lightly, like I'm barely tickling the paper with the pencil, and then I begin to use my fingers to blend the ebony on my paper. For blending lighter values on the value scale, it's best to use your finger because it blends it very nicely and softly. Moving on to the third section of my value scale, I'm beginning to add a little bit more pressure, and I'm beginning to layer more of the ebony on top of each other. You can see when I'm filling in the space with the pencil, I'm using craftsmanship and being really mindful in the direction that I am coloring in the space with. This value, I picked up the blending stump and very gently began to blend in the ebony pencil together. I noticed that it needed to be just a little bit darker, so I added another layer of graphite and continued to blend that again. Repeat the same step until your value scale is complete. Here is my finished example. On your basket at your table, I have placed a small piece of tape for you to use so that you can tape your value scale into your sketchbook. Now that your value scale is taped in, flip it over to a new clean page. You can use the back or another open page. Next, head over to the front of the studio. Under the smartboard, there's a basket of Legos. Choose one Lego for yourself. Find a good placement for your Lego somewhere on the table near your sketchbook. I tested out a few positions for my Lego. After you found a good placement, make sure it does not get moved or it's going to be really difficult drawing it. We're going to be drawing from observation, so drawing everything that we see. Now everything is a shape. I'm starting off by drawing the top of the Lego by using a rectangle shape. Then I drew the sides of my Lego using vertical lines that run up and down. Then I connected it with parallel lines for the bottom. We're trying to use a lot of parallel lines here when we're drawing, and if we don't, your drawing might look a little bit funny. And no big deal if it does. We're in our sketchbook because we're here to practice. Now we're going to add the shadows using value, which we practiced in our value scale. Start by drawing the outline of the shadow first. Anywhere you see a shadow on the table from the Lego, you will draw it on your drawing. Think about how dark or light the value should be. Begin to add graphite onto the shadow and use your fingers or the blending stump to blend. I even added a little bit of shadow onto the top of my Lego. Here is a finished example of my Lego sketch. When you are finished, close your sketchbook and place it back in your sketchbook folder. Carefully return your Lego back to the basket. Let's review our art supplies for today. It's going to look a little bit similar from last week. You're going to have your ebony pencil, your pencil sharpener, and your blending stumps. Remember the tip from last week. You don't want to sharpen your pencil too fine and pointy, or it's just going to keep breaking. Going to receive a blank drawing paper. Write your name on the bottom right corner. You're definitely going to need a ruler for your artwork today. Send your expert to grab the ruler for each person at your table. You'll also see that you have a sheet of notebook paper. You may fold your notebook paper in any which way that you like. I would stick to a simple fold from at least 3 to 4 folds. After you're happy with the folds you've created, we're going to take a little shortcut and you're going to find a good placement on your drawing paper. Test out the placement on your drawing paper to see which one you like best. If you've found a good placement, use your opposite drawing hand to hold down the notebook paper and begin to trace around the edges. Next, make a light mark of where each fold is in your notebook paper. Using those little marks that we just made and a ruler, begin to draw from observation. You're going to begin by drawing your folds first. It's okay if the lines overlap. Ebony pencil, if you remember, has a darker graphite, so try to draw a little bit lighter so it's easier to erase today. Carefully observe the shadows that fall onto the table and begin to draw the outline for your shadow on all sides and edges of your paper. Even look for the folds not only on the table, but on the paper. Remember, when you're drawing from observation, it's best to keep the placement of your object that you're drawing very still. Try not to move the object a lot of times. After you've double-checked your work, now you may begin to fill it in with value. Once you've filled in the space with the desired value, use a ruler and the blending stump to carefully blend the graphite together. The ruler helps to make sure that the blending stays in place. Repeat this step until all the edges of your shadow are complete. Now I'm working on the shadows that fall on the paper. These shadows are a little bit lighter in the value scale, so I like to use my finger to blend. Use the eraser to clean up any smudges that might appear on your artwork. Here is a look at my artwork when the shadows are complete. When you're finished and at the end of class today, make sure your pencil sharpener, blending stump, and your ebony pencil are back in the little basket. Your artwork needs to go in your artwork folder along with your notebook paper. We're going to be pulling our artwork out of the artwork folder. If you did not finish your shadows from last week, then you need to finish that step first. We will be using the same art supplies from last week, and we will also be using some color pencils. Try to find the same placement of your notebook paper on your table from last week. For our color pencils, we're mainly going to be using a light blue and a red. These are colors that you are traditionally going to see in the notebook paper. Remember, you don't want to sharpen the color pencil too fine or too sharp, or the tip is going to keep breaking. We're going to be looking at each section of our fold on our notebook paper. If you look at each section, the blue lines run parallel to the edges of the notebook paper. Picking one section or fold, I'm going to begin practicing the parallel lines with my color pencil. When you feel confident, use the ruler and begin drawing the lines with the blue colored pencil. Try to draw lightly at first, and then you can go over it again with a little bit more pressure to make it darker in value. You can't completely erase color pencil with an eraser, but if you draw lightly at first, you can get away with erasing most of it. Try to make sure that you're holding the ruler parallel, straight, and you're also keeping an even distance between each line. Repeat this same step on each section, always double checking the direction of your blue lines. Your lines might even go over shadows, so if you see that in your folded paper, make sure you draw that so that it looks realistic. Finished with the light blue color pencil, add a few red lines that you see in your folded paper. Red line should also run parallel to the edge of your paper. Always double check before you draw. Here is a finished example of my artwork. I think it looks pretty realistic. Always double check to make sure you're not missing any details or shadows or lines. Now, the next step is an option. If you want to, you may add a small and short little message on your notebook paper. Here is an example of what I wrote. I thought of another idea that might be a little bit funny. When you are finished, please place your color pencils away. And if you used an ebony pencil blending stump, please put that away as well, and the pencil sharpener. When you are finished, turn your finished artwork into the artwork folder. No longer need our notebook paper if you're finished with your artwork, so please recycle it when you're done.